Hey there, I'm Eternal, and I'm an Object Show fan that has barely watched any Object shows. Let's play Object Catchup. Hello and welcome in to this very new series called Object Catchup. Completely different to every other content I have made on this channel, which was webcam gameplays. This is a non-webcam, sort of soft podcast style discussion on episodes of Object shows I'm going to watch because I am extremely far behind. I have not watched any Object show that is non-BFDI or II, but they intrigue me a lot. I find them very interesting. And even within BFDI and II, I haven't watched them all. So to be exact, I have watched Anime Insanity Season 1, 2, 3, and 4 so far. I have not watched the Season 1 remaster. And then for Jack and Jellyfy, we have watched BFDI, BFB, and most of TPOT. As you'll find out, not all of it. I have not watched any of the BFDI returning, like ever since 5e, ever since it returned. I have not watched any of those episodes. And I have also not watched any episode past TPOT 16 because I wasn't watching those and then I got busy and then I couldn't watch the rest. But that is what we're going to be trying to fix today because today's theme is going to be to catch up with TPOT because TPOT 20 is right around the corner. They're doing the feeder showings very soon over at the AMC theaters in America, which I can't go to because I'm European. However, we want to be ready for when that releases. And yeah, what this is going to go is I'm going to watch the episode and we're going to discuss it live immediately after I watch it. And then afterwards, a little bit after I have some time to think about it, to look over it again. And yeah, we'll be discussing Teapot as well as some other episodes, new Object Show releases in future parts. Today's focus is going to be entirely on Teapot 17 through to 19, which is where we are currently. So let's start with Teapot 17. I am now going to go watch it because I have no idea what happens in Bottle for Dream Island. Just to remember, last episode I watched was Teapot 16. What was happening in Teapot 16? It was sort of the aftermath episode to the chaos that was Teapot 15. 2 is currently very sad because of Gady being gone. So 4 and X sort of take the hosting role. It's sort of a game of tag. There's a big scene, if I'm not mistaken, with Pencil. Pencil has a crash out and is in general just very mad all around. And or was it Pan? No, it was Pan. It was both. No, sorry, Pan had the crash out. And yeah, let's get into Teapot 17. Let's go for it. Before talking about the episode, let's get a few things out of the way. First of all, of course, spoiler warning for Teapot 17 incoming. If you haven't watched it, the episode is a little old, I guess, nowadays. It's 5 months old. However, you may not have watched it, so beware. I will be discussing the episode at length. Secondly, I also just want to give the shout out to Mikey for creating Object Show Roundup, which is the series that this is very much so inspired. So absolutely go that. I'll have a link over in the description for the channel because that is the channel which I'm getting the inspiration to do this series, right, where I discuss Object Show, I give analysis, and all that stuff live as I watch it. So let's get to it. Okay, so I have literally just about 2 minutes ago finished watching Teapot 17 Bottle for Dream Island. Now, it is definitely going to be difficult to discuss these episodes. I'm going to need to get more into it, as I start reviewing them. This is my first ever proper review of the episode, so initial thoughts are it's so many. There's so many of them because these episodes, they're absolute marathons, 40-minute episodes, longer than the average episode of a TV show, right? Which sometimes they end up being like 20 minutes. So 40 minutes for one episode. There's so much stuff packed in, and it creates so many thoughts, so much to think about. So let's start from the beginning where we have Pen talking, watching TV. I thought that scene was really cute because seeing how TV seems like one of the characters that definitely just helps out the most in terms of just other people. TV helps out the host every time that there's a different host. helps out for challenges, making schematics, and seeing TV help out Penn there with playing the episode. I always thought is very cute for TV to do. So that's very nice, very sweet, and I like TV as a character a lot for that reason, because TV isn't afraid to help out when given the opportunity. Then we head into Cake and Steak, which is hosted by Bottle, because 4 and X um are busy cleaning the kitchen because of the token. This token ends up being a big portion of the episode, the token that Ping gives to Tree. Tree just cannot keep it in. Whatever happens, just it keeps bouncing out, and it bounces out in a very convenient way every time. So, which I mean, it is convenient writing, right? It is writing for the sake of conveniency, but at the same time, it's funny, right? So we don't mind. At least a bottle hosting the entirety of the episode. Now, I think Bottle as a host was actually extremely interesting. I really enjoyed seeing Bottle host this episode, TPOT 17, because it gives a much different perspective than usual um, to a host, because hosts usually in object shows, in TPOT and stuff, are these like extraterrestrial entities. They're literally algebrailians who have infinite power, and we're fighting for the power of two, which is the biggest power possible. Um, and seeing a difference by how it is when somebody who is equal with the others host is actually very interesting, and I think it's very nice to have some episodes where that's the case. Reminds me a bit of like BFDIA, the older BFDIA, because BFDIA doesn't have a proper host, so it just kind of changes. And I think it's nice to have some episodes where it's like this, so that's good. In the meanwhile, Pencil is the first one safe, thinks she's eliminated, turns out to be safe. The eliminated contestants end up being Pillow and Yellowface. As far as the elimination's concerned, those definitely feel like the ones that make the most sense from those teams, because the other ones, they are kind of characters that were either very relevant in the episode or are just in general fan favorites. You know, like Pencil got the most votes, that makes perfect sense. And all that jazz, we know Pillow and Yellowface didn't really do much. Yellowface has never really been one of the fan favorite characters. People usually don't tend to vote for Yellowface that often, so I think it makes sense for Yellowface to get eliminated. However, I only watched TPOT 16 when it released, so I'm not exactly sure what the screen time was, if it makes perfect sense. Then people are discussing 2 is still bed rotting, which hasn't had 1 second of screen time. I think it was like 0 lines, 1 second screen time. So for now, 2 remains in limbo. So I guess we'll have to see it. Bono actually comes up with a very, very interesting challenge here, which is the Atusman Park, which was finished, apparently, at some point in time. Not sure when. And then 1 person per team does each challenge portion. And it is very interesting. And it's good writing, in my opinion, because we get to see a narrative switch from episode to episode. We don't get to see, like, the haunted house is the more dark portion. The eating challenge is, I guess, more funny in general. And the other ones are also there. There is also the force, the horse with 4. So, yeah, Tennis Ball ends up having Pillow's notes, ends up reading one that Pillow wrote that the force is bad, which means that the force eventually gets upset a lot at Tennis Ball and ends up just chasing them for the entirety of the challenge. And what goes on in that portion. That was okay. It felt like that portion was the least relevant in terms of the actual challenge of it, right? Because the fact that they were on the force wasn't really relevant. Pencil and Book ended up having a discussion, but on average, it was just the fact that they were on the horse didn't matter. You know, like the horse wasn't really trying to do much. I guess the horse was chasing tennis balls, so it makes sense. But yeah, they end up having this discussion. Pencil's selfishness gets brought up yet again after a few episodes, right? TPOT 15, where Pencil nearly destroys the universe for the sake of everything. Fanny is also there, I guess. The Fanny doesn't really do that much in this episode. However, ends up being fine because the team ends up being fine. Um, it is a big discussion between them, which ends up being also helped out by Pen. There's a lot to talk. There's a lot to say. Like, there's so many thoughts that I just cannot condense into this immediate reaction, man. Because, wow. I find Pencil's situation in Teapot to be very interesting because it is what you would expect to happen with characters when they're in the exit, right? Characters in the exit, they are locked in there for eons and eons, and then when they get out, it's like you're scared to go there again because you're still in a competition, which means that you end up being significantly more off. However, it's like a little weird only because Pencil's the one to do it. There were other characters that were also stuck in the exit for ages, but they don't feel the same fear, right? They don't feel the same fear. They don't feel the same necessity to come back as Pencil does. Pencil also has other stuff going on. Of course, the Alliance is going, Free Smart, and all that stuff. But like, yeah, the way she reacts to it is definitely a bit different to other characters. But it's fine to have some characters react a little differently to their circumstances. Book in this episode is fine, has the debate, and not much else. Okay, the haunted house segment was one of the more interesting ones. It takes use of things that we knew already, which was the controlling, because the little spider is mechanical, so TV ends up going in and controlling it, and then Grassy controls Tree because we know that's the thing that can happen. So Tree lets go of the elevator, like doesn't let TV in, which is a little weird because they can fit. Like, let's be honest, they can fit in the elevator. I'm sorry. Like, in the elevator for the hotel, like 6 people can fit in at once, and you're telling me in this larger elevator only 2 people can fit? Like, that's not true. So, Tree, pretty uncharacteristic behavior there. Grassy is pretty understandably upset. Ends up taking over Tree to try to get them both safe or to take advantage. There isn't really a way out there, so TV and Grassy end up having a grass tree, end up having a very cool fight sequence. Animation is shown off to its maximum degree here. Animation in general is very, very good. There's a shot like 30 seconds in that is very, very nice. Of the painting switching. It is very, very cool. The token in the haunted house as well ends up creating an absolute mess because the token leaves the haunted house to end up in the horse shed, which then makes the horse slip. Then the token goes into Lai's food, Lai's chocolate balls, which Lai ends up eating, and Black Hole ends up murdering. They're an accident. But anyways, that eating challenge, I think one of the more goofy ones is where Bottle ends up remaining for the extent of the challenge. The other ones, Bottle just like, yeah, you deal with this. Oh, I find it interesting how like there's just the shop where the other fellow contestants, the debutantes, which we see in the shorts, end up buying off price tag. Winner in the meantime has a pretty interesting character arc, and we end up eating Losero cereal, which is not something that we knew existed before. At least I don't remember. But yeah, there is one winner per boss, which winner didn't know about, and now winner is much more satisfied with it. Black Hole ends up getting out second to last due to the bugs, which Black Hole ends up getting a few of. Me personally, considering that Black Hole didn't even drink the gasoline, I'm surprised Black Hole didn't do something similar, right? Like sort of orbit them and then he technically ate them in the same way the gasoline was, but I guess the gasoline wasn't intentional. The gasoline also ends up dropping perfectly onto Pen to make something happen, which is just pure. There's a lot of convenient writing going on, but that's just Teapot. So now let's discuss the Algebraians. I found 4 pretty interesting because 4 seemed actively happy to not actually have to host the episode because Bottle was like, yo, I'm going to take this off you. And 4 was like, yeah, sure, sure. Like, I found it interesting because, I mean, it is not 4's show, but 4 didn't mind hosting it for a moment. So, yeah, 4 seems not too bothered about hosting, which means Bottle gets to do it. Again, I enjoyed Bottle's performance in this episode. Definitely, I think, my favorite character of the episode. And then there's 1. So we got to talk about 1. So 1 takes over Donut, taking advantage of a spare room in the haunted house. And Donut, for the first time, ends up making a smart character decision in history. Everybody else agreed to the deal. Donut didn't. I think Donut took advantage. I think it makes a bit of sense because the deal that 1 did with Donut doesn't work as well because Donut is pretty used to not having the limbs, right? When you take it with like Fanny or something, it's like significantly weirder because like they need more of it. It's like it's a more important thing. It's a thing they aren't used to. But Donut has already had this for a while and has already felt this experience. So the fact that Donut managed to avoid the deal, not go for it, is very interesting. Also, by the way, why can nobody read what is actually written in the contract? Right? Like, is it written in like weird one language? That was found very interesting because there's text there, which is nobody can read it. However, which I think it is very interesting. So 1 ends up sending Donut back to the one where Donut ends up still working out, right? Because finds Yellowface's old limbs. I guess the stolen limbs, right? Because Yellowface stole them, but the limbs that were on Yellowface. And the Donut ends up being a very successful benefactor. 1 seems very visibly upset by this. And it's going to be interesting heading into the later episodes if Donut is going to be a big deal. Right? Like, is the fact that 1 didn't get Donut something important? We'll have to find out. So the fellas, they end up reaching X finds out his value land or whatever it's called. I don't know what the place is called actually. I think it's gotta be. I'm gonna call it like the playground because that's where the Algebraians were. 6 ends up being there. Stacy is the last one there actually, apparently. So 1 is gone, as he knows. He says 4 is gone through 4's door. So there's something going on here. It's like every Algebraian has a door or something where they can connect themselves back to their own room or world or whatever it is. So 1 has a door, which the characters left in, Bommy Needle, Barback. They left in 1's door from the 1 lands back into the it gets the shared playground of the Algebraian. And then 4 land also has the exit. Has that, and you can tell because they end up knocking on the door and Purple Face hears it. So that is very, very interesting, to be honest. And I don't know what's going on with that. I guess we'll have to find out. Remember, these are my reactions as of not having watched TPOT 18 or 19 yet, because yeah, that's where we're at. That's the point. 1's psychological tactics are quite interesting. You can tell how she really tried to get that thing that worked for the other contestants to work on Donut, but Donut didn't budge, being like, oh, you got to be a little selfish, think of the others, it's only fair. But like, yeah, and it worked on everybody else, but you can tell that 1 definitely tried the tactic. Like, it's not that 1 was bored and didn't go for it. 1 definitely tried. Donut was just better than that. I haven't talked too much about the Ferris wheel portion of it because there's not that much going on in there. To be honest, it's the part that has the least screen time. Basically, Penn and the Snowball are trying to discuss because they're old homies, and they're like still kind of homies, but not really. Then Marker is helping out with Snowball, who Snowball, you can tell, is very clearly enamored by Grassy. You can tell in the other episodes already, like in 16. But here you can properly tell, Snowball, big fan of Grassy. And they all decide to go after Golf Ball, but they spend half the episode just running around in circles until eventually Penn earns the gasoline and comes in and picks up Snow. And in general, there's a lot of trust going on because Snowball, I guess, doesn't really allow it, but Penn grabs a part of Snowball, fixes the glue stuff, and it ends up working out. Marker ends up winning the points because of the pact. And yeah, that part, and it's the most simple, but it does lead into Penn eventually coming back there at the end into the dancing playground, and it also connects back to the initial scene of the episode where we're seeing Blocky's Funny doing the snow and gasoline, right, which ends up being important to the actual episode. There in the challenge, Penn has this somber talk. Pencil says nothing. Quite frankly, looking at how Pencil has acted previously in the previous episode, it shouldn't work. Like, realistically, I don't know what is going to happen in the next episodes in TPOT 18 or 19, as of me talking right now, but it shouldn't work. Like, we have directly seen characters talk to Pencil's face. You are selfish. You have nearly destroyed the universe. You haven't done it. And while Penn's talk is more somber, it still shouldn't work because, like, I don't know. Pencil is one of those characters that's currently so unbelievably far gone that if they proceed to just write Pencil and go, oh, Penn's told me this, so I'm fine now, it's not going to be good. It's not going to be good. Don't do that, please. Lai is also there hearing it for some reason. Not really sure what Lai was doing there. And then the elimination. Claudia and Deadpack yet again are safe. Nice to see Deadpack survive a challenge because Deadpack's quite weak in challenges. And the teams are up for elimination. So, talking about both of them. In Team 2, we had Grassy, Snowball, Price Tag, and Book. Price Tag sounds the most complicated in terms of situation. Okay, in terms of screen time, Book should be fine because Book had the debate. Snowball, Price Tag, and Grassy had both equally not. They weren't the main focus of too much. Grassy, I think, is fine because Grassy is a fan favorite, and B had enough screen time, had a cool screen time, did cool stuff. Snowball and Price Tag, they're both in the same vein. Of they didn't do that much. They had a thing going on. Snowball technically did less, but Snowball I think is the character people like a bit more. But I'd probably still barely go with Snowball eliminated over Price Tag right now, in my opinion. And then the other team is interesting because Bottle is actually up for elimination, and Bottle didn't actually do any of the challenge, but Bottle had, of course, the hosting role. I think Bottle's safe. Unless Bottle gets forgotten about by voters because they didn't even do a challenge. TV, Tennis Ball, and Temple Line, Penn. Penn is safe. Absolutely. If Penn gets eliminated, I'll be heavily shocked. Lai, Tennis Ball, and TV. Lai's the one that dies first. Lai and Tennis Ball are the ones that are the most at risk, I think, from the beginning. I think Lai gets out here because TV should be relatively safe. TV had stuff going on, had a cool scene. Tennis Ball is an OG, a relatively fan favorite. Lai is the one that's like, I mean, again, all of these characters have been around for ages now, but Lai, I think, is a bit more cooked. So I'd probably predict Snowball and Lai, but this episode is relatively well written. The way it's chaptered out gives every character the opportunity to shine because it's a 4-on-4 situation, right? Instead of sometimes full teams where it's like there's 7 characters at once, so then like only 3 can really dictate the conversation. But it also extremely cool. Bottle actually takes over the end game there with the credits scene talking about it, which I thought was very swag. We also get to see, I don't know, Six, I think Six had a voice actor before because of the Algebraian shorts, and I think those are the same. So Florence Chapel there gets a Teapot debut. I haven't watched the shorts either. I'm telling you, I haven't watched any of it. But yeah, they also announced a teardrop plush, which of course it's gonna be quite old by this point. And then the post-credit scene is One getting annoyed, and then Purple Face hearing it. We'll get to see Purple Face doesn't have the ability to actually open the door, but maybe Purple Face can talk through it, which I guess is what's maybe gonna happen. That's what I'm predicting. Maybe Six is gonna talk with Purple Face through the door, or they're gonna have a conversation, and then they're gonna try to figure out something, like being like, oh, hey, can you do, maybe you can pass this from one side to the other. That's what I would do, at least, because it gives an interesting dynamic. but I'm not sure if it is what they're gonna do. So, on average, that is my initial reaction and ramble on TPOT 17 right after I watched it. The TLDR is that I think Bottle is a very nice host to have for an episode because it gets to make a lot of funny gags, gets to give a much interesting dynamic. The challenge is actually quite smart because you get to give a lot of shared screen time to the characters. And in general, there's a lot of good scenes. It's a big episode. It's a big 40-minute of an episode. So, yeah, overall, I am a fan of this episode. I thought it was quite nice. It was quite good. And it had some scenes, some important stuff. Um, the character that I think is written worse is probably Tree, because Tree felt a little off in this episode. I guess was a bit distracted by the token, but Tree has kind of in this episode more than ever, Tree I think forgot the pact, and it was kind of weird. Like Tree didn't try anything too much, so I wasn't a big fan of Tree in this episode. But other than that, I think the characters were pretty well written. Okay, weird new detail I noticed after looking in. Where is Six going? Six looks at the one door and then proceeds to not go there. Proceeds to go to the 4 door that's further away. That is weird. Unless there's some animation thing going on that doesn't make much sense. Because Six very clearly looks at the one door that's right there. And then, one's door, right? The one where the guy under, and then proceeds to go to the other door, which we found out is 4's door because Purple Face hears it. So I'm not. What is Six doing? I don't. I have genuinely no idea where this bro is leading them. That doesn't make much sense, huh? Okay, I mean, I guess we'll find out, but that I don't know about that one. That's a weird decision. Other details I found interesting in this episode after looking at it just a little bit more. I think that Bottle's drawings are actually pretty good. I like Bottle's drawings. I also like the how Bottle pronounces the music theme. Do-do-do-do-do-do. I thought that's really good. Bottle was banger. It was written so well. I actually really like Bottle in this episode. I think that I found interesting. Yeah. I did like how Price Tag doesn't know about Loser. Not being famous. Like you have to replay the scene from original BFB on her phone. So I think that's really interesting. And also the fact that Price Tag sells stuff. Like, of course, the Price Tag is gonna sell stuff. um, and yeah, it is also known. Tennis Ball said that Two's been bed running since New Year. We do forget. It's super easy to forget that Teapot runs in real time. Like, they sort of just throw out this detail when they decide, when they feel like it, right? Sometimes they say, "Oh, I've spent years, we've waited years," and sometimes it feels like it's the next day, even if it's not. I feel like that's a detail they're not too consistent about because it's not a detail they control. They can only control it after an episode releases, right? So they know after an episode release how long it took for it to release. So it makes perfect sense. But the fact that Teapot runs in real time is weird. It is weird, and I don't know. I feel like they should retcon it at some point because it creates a lot of weird situations. Like whenever the cliffhanger, right, is like somebody at 1, and then it's like the next episode to come out for 3 months. So they say, "Oh, you've been here for 3 months," and it's like, what? That's not what was intended, I think. But yeah, they should probably do that. Anyways, I've yapped so much about TPO 17. We gotta move on. Oh yeah, I also enjoyed how the fact that Dota gets away with having no limbs because Tree just assumes it's part of the haunted house and it's like, yeah, let's get you out of here. I thought that was a good detail, and also it's nicely written because like you need to find a way for it to not be extremely weird, and yeah, they found it. So I think that there was a lot of pretty smart decisions in making this episode flow well. The only one I didn't really like was the token. The token felt like it was definitely a little cheap way to write stuff, it just perfectly placed thing that makes stuff happen, right? Like we've seen a lot of that before. Um, but yeah. Also, final correction if you're listening to this. I misgendered 6. Algebraians are they them. I completely forgot about that. My bad. 6 wasn't mentioned. I believe, by anybody in the episode, so I made a guess. My apologies. That's wrong. Should have done research. Again, I'm going off the blurb. My bad. As I mentioned at the start, this is a full teapot reliant episode, which means that the next episode we're going to be taking a look at in Object Catchup is going to be BFDI Teapot 18 BFB 31, which is an interesting title. But yeah, we are going to be getting to it, and we're going to be watching it right now. I haven't watched it yet as of me recording this, but by the next time you will hear me, the episode will have concluded. So, and I will give my immediate reaction and thoughts. Hello, I am back. I have just watched Teapot 18. Spoiler warning, of course, for BFDI Teapot 18, BFB 31, in case you haven't watched it, despite the fact that it is already a couple months old. So, Teapot 18, immediate thoughts as I finished it just about 2 minutes ago. This whole episode feels weird. It has this very weird undertone to it, I think, because of Teapot 15. Because this episode, they're going into the memories of each other and they're using it to try to figure out who stole the card. But the problem is they end up interacting with each other with the memory selves, and they can bring them over and all that stuff. And it's weird because, like, we found out in Teapot 15 what it's like to change the past. You cannot change the past. That's important, right? The past has to happen for the present to be this way. And even though we're all in like a fictional simulation type thing, it still has this weird feeling to it, this episode, because like we're seeing the memories, but at the same time we're changing. Like a Bubble from the present is making Bubble's memory sad because they sort of took over, like Bubble took over again, and it's like ultra weird. And with Woody in affecting Sponge's memory, especially Blocky, the biggest one, dealing with a lollipop, is it just has this weird undertone to it because it's not something that happened, but the memories are interacting with, and it's weird. Like, I get it, it's not that big of a deal, but Teapot 15 makes this episode feel very, very weird. It's also random. There's no cake or stick being done, and there's no Teapot intro being played. There is the B&B intro played as a Teapot intro, because this episode is pretty much a side quest. It is officially the first episode, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, without a proper elimination. Um, so you can tell that, at least by now, the script seems to be off. I have no idea what happens in the next Teapot episode, but I don't think Teapot makes it to like a final 3 or whatever. As far as I'm aware, like it won't. I think the show's supposed to end in not too long. So yeah, that is something. But yeah, the whole episode immediately feels just weird off the cuff. So we get to see the B&B fellas again, which we haven't seen in a while because B&B 30, it's been so long since B&B 30 that seeing this again is it's truly, truly interesting. So where do we begin? So we're all trying to get Lollipop's credit card is the purpose of the challenge. Now, Ford takes the note extremely seriously, which is interesting because a lot of the time Ford doesn't care about contestants. Ford is very random with whether or not they're gonna listen to complaints or not. Like if Ford does that, it's significantly weirder. And you can tell that it's sort of weird. The episode follows a lot of memories. Like again, it's feels like the switch of scenery, but it's a lot more switches of scenery because we're going into a lot of different memories. We're going to lose memory, we're going to block the memory, we're going to Lollipop's memory, we're going to Flower's memory, everybody's memory, Spongy's memory, we're like Bubbles' memory. We're doing a lot of swaps, and it is somewhat weird. We're going to Taco's memory as well. And it is quite a bit. So Lollipop spends most of the episode doing gelatin and flour because she's tried to fix their business, made a party, everything burned on fire, and that's sort of the situation. And you can tell sort of the weird reality that they end up in. They're like the flower and Jonathan get arrested. Um, so that ends up in a weird situation, but not too much happens with it other than finding out they didn't steal the card. Blocky is often Lollipop's memory, because Blocky's idea is if I just steal the card, then I'll have it, and I can say that I found it, which makes sense. It's a fair idea. Lucky does manage to do it after a bit, but finds a fake card. We get to see the same scene of a photo booth about 3 times. Once with Blocky, once with Taco and Blocky, since Taco ends up going into the Blocky memory. That's this memory or something. This episode is confusing. It's not quite super understandable on a first go. There's a lot of things that they definitely fly over your head. Then Woody is in Spongy's memory, I think. Yeah, starts screaming. It's Woody now is kind of interesting because Woody can speak now significantly more. Sounds a lot like Fiery. I don't know. It just gave me massive Fiery sounds. I feel like it's even more than it was in BFB, but again, I haven't watched BFB in ages, so I have to remember. But it feels very Fiery type sound. But either way, Woody agrees to relax, and it ends up working. So that ends up being a relatively chill timeline. What else is there? Timeline. There's the Bubble timeline. Yeah, because Bubble has the whole thing with Match. If you remember back in the earlier episode, TPOT, Bubble eventually, right before elimination, tossed the Match like, "Hey, I'm da 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 da," and ends up having this weird feeling. And now Bubble's looking back at that sort of the outro. Wasn't it the outro of the TPOT 15? Something was the outro of the TPOT 15, but basically, yeah, ends up bouncing around on the and then Bubble decides to just have fun in that time, have fun in that life, and hang out with Match, take advantage of the opportunity all the way until the end where Lollipop goes like, "No, you're not staying here." I'd also like to point out that the party, which I didn't mention earlier, it does include recommended characters, which isn't a thing that I guess we've seen that much of in later TPRO episodes. It was a constant thing in BFB, so having it there is quite nice. They also some of them spoke and everything, like the TV and the shop fellas, which I think it's pretty cool to have recommended characters that actually have lines. I think it's quite fun, to be honest. Then what happens? Blocky finds the credit card, I think, in the fake world because it was under the cushion, buys a mega villa with it. Then 4 drops in, and everybody goes to Taco's memory, where Flour and Gelatin were the entire time, and they were complaining about how Taco's life was boring. Because Taco has that whole thing, I had no friends, just relaxing. We're trying to decide whether Taco's fine. I think Taco is fine. I don't think Taco minds that much. At least it's not been like a massive thing currently that Taco is extremely upset. But yeah, Taco is just kind of currently pissed. Taco this episode was written fine. Taco was one of the characters which got the most BFB'd after post split. I think a lot of people didn't like Taco. I also wasn't really a big fan of Taco. They wrote Taco kind of very weird in post split. In this episode, Taco's rated better. It's more they didn't write Taco that much, but yeah, they did write Taco. In this, the characters are really fine in this episode. Spongy may be the one that's the most overall, because Spongy kind of doesn't do that much. Anything Spongy does be part of that memory, like, "No, I'm truly," and yeah. So they all go to Taco's memory, and then Lollipop, they have a battle to the portal, which is a tall cliff in Taco's memory for some reason. Lollipop assembles the Lollipop army, which kind of feels weird, like we're grabbing lollipops from all these different times from different memories, but they act the same. It's like an army. It's taken, like, going from Teapot 15, we're changing the past. Feels like such a serious thing, and then going here, where changing a memory feels like such a joke. It's weird. It's weird. It's fine, but it's weird. Like it's a decision. Then what happens? Convenient plot shenanigans. Profiley shows up for some reason, as Profiley does. That is Profiley's thing. Profiley shows up when no one needs it. but starts to try to hang out with friends. For some reason, Profile takes off the what is it called? Now that I think of it, the amp off the fellas. They're dead. Somehow Profile does not notice that they're dead. Like it's like, oh, you're dead. I guess that was just that, which is a little bit of dumbness for the sake of narrative. Yeah, I think that one wasn't too smart. Like, I mean, as soon as Profile takes off the amps from Gelatin and Flour and sees that they're dead because of that, like they were asleep and now they're dead, what is going on? Like, you gotta realize that, surely. I found that to be a weird decision. So they're debating. Profile usually tends to help out. We see a prank. Spongy's mad at Blocky, so Spongy helps out Taco. Taco's about to get there. However, unfortunately, Taco's trying to look swag. There's a walk. Then Profile takes off the amp right there at the end. Blocky ends up being the one to leave the universe. Loser is the only one who keeps the amp, I think. Loser and Blocky, because Lollipop also gets it taken over at the end. But yeah, Loser's the only one who proper keeps it. Blocky runs back all the way and tries to find the credit card, which isn't there. For recovers everybody. So it was stolen. We found out it was Match. So Match was the one at the beginning of the episode who dodged it, right? Well, we didn't get to see Ruby because Ruby was rejected. Who else was rejected? Okay, Match takes away Ruby, and yeah, it turns out that Match actually found the credit card. That they immediately discounted it because they went to sell the van. Bubble discounted it, so it wasn't true. I guess it makes sense because of the whole Ruby shenanigan. It's weird because again we're seeing memories from different times, different things, and yeah, like Blocky gets to see the card, but at the same time, like you get to see the card match as well. They're like it's a different time and different place, but the same thing. The episode's it's kind of a weird episode narrative. I'm not the biggest fan of it. They have this machine, which I don't know why it's there. I mean, like I get why it's there, so they can swap around. I don't know how it got there. I don't know what it did. But a lot of things in this episode they feel sort of for convenience, which it is sort of BFB style, so it makes sense, but it's weird. And now let's talk about Loser. Let's talk about Loser. So Loser, we get to see Spongy in the Loser flashback. We get to see live one of Loser's attempts at a show post Winner, because we know that Loser lost a bit of relevance, I guess, after Winner live, which is weird if you think about it, because that's not actually that's I don't think that's how the story was going. Because if you remember, Loser and Winner were a duo, then Loser took the spotlight as a soloist, and then Winner ended up falling into the limelight, sort of as the forgotten weirdo. So I don't know if I'm misremembering, but I thought that was what happened. So seeing the story that Loser tried to show without Winner and it ended up not going well, being a negative, was weird in my eyes, because we're talking about the past before Loser got cancelled. So I thought that was weird. Can't lie. We also get to see Rose come back. Rose, which I think talked in TPOT 15, was voiced by Gooseworks back in that episode. I'm not sure if Gooseworks. I don't think Rose actually talked this time. Yeah, it was just Loser, but yeah, the character was there, and then we get to see back at the end as Loser remains in the flashback that Loser is sort of exploring Teapot and sees Winner around and starts chasing around Winner and realizes that Winner thought that Loser forgot, which it wasn't. Yeah, there was just, I guess, a big miscommunication. So Loser's now going and find them. I like this. I like this plot line. I think it makes sense. The only thing that I think didn't make sense was, as I said, I thought Loser did well as a solo. Like, Loser got famous as a solo and left Winner behind. So I find it weird that that's a thing. However, other than that, I think it's great. It's a great story arc that's flourishing. Winner being mad at Loser, but then realizing, oh, maybe Loser cared, and then Loser realizing kind of immediately after, oh, Winner thinks I don't care. So they're gonna have a reconciliation, presumably, and that's gonna be cool. So that's the main plot line that I enjoy here is Loser, because Loser has been relevant. But other than that, it feels a little random. I mean, it's a more random episode. It has some gags, but it doesn't play too much plot importance, I think. Other than that, like it's more so of a random episode. Right there at the end, 4 ends up going into the 2 room, sees what's going on in the now corrupted area of the whiteboard. No idea what's going on there. If I feels like an ARG. I can't lie. From reading this text, I have it up here right now. There's binary code. There's a few strings of random characters over there, and all of that stuff. Like, it feels like decryption. Somebody should get to it, right? But I don't know if Jack Shelfie did that. Of course, if we did, people would know. But it does somewhat feel like ARG type beat. I remember Geometry Dash back in 2.0. No, back in 2.1 released these Omega ARG images, and they were super cool and super interesting. So it does kind of give me that vibe again. Lucer somehow draws a map, by the way, to go. I don't know how that knowledge was acquired, but apparently Lucer managed to draw a map to get back. 4 seems visibly upset at the whiteboard. I'm not sure if 4 is upset at Tennis Ball and Fanny, or if 4 is just upset at what they saw. That's sort of the thing that I don't know. Like, 4 is 4 upset because they read about 1 and 2 and whatever, and they're not happy about what's happening, or they aren't happy about the research being conducted by Fanny and Tennis Ball because, like, personal stuff or whatever. No idea. We'll have to see. X at the end is gonna recover Lollipop and Profile because Taco, if I'm not mistaken, was like, "Yep, okay, sure, I'll get to this." But yeah, there's a bit less to discuss in this episode than BFB 17. This episode has a weird title than TPOT 17. It's shorter, but it's also less plot relevant because we see less of the TPOT characters, right? We get to see the BFB characters where their story arcs mostly concluded. So I guess we're gonna see. I'll give a quick look. I'll see if there's any other notes I'd like to give. Actually, before I go check, I do remember I found it very interesting how right there at the end you can see Black Hole, which is currently on shift, I guess, saving the universe. Keeping the broken shift intact. You could tell of this at the end of TPO 17 as well, where a Black Hole, after losing the challenge, just returned on duty. So Black Hole is just doing that now all the time, which fair enough. But it's nice to see some plot like resistant continuity, right? Or like that's not a detail they're forgetting about, and that's good. They've made this gigantic detail. Pay attention to it, keep it on focus, and that's exactly what we want. And yeah, it's all pretty good. I find it interesting, actually, now that I think about it, how Bubble was in Ruby's memory to find out Ruby stole the card, but it actually turned out that Matt stole the card. So the answer to the question who got the card at the beginning was actually nobody that was available as an option. It was Match, which was the character that you were least thinking. I mean, Bubble does talk to Match and all that stuff as part of the flashback, but in terms of actually, like, being the culprit, nobody, that wasn't even one of the options available. So yeah, the episode is kind of pointless, but we'll go for it. Don't correct me if I'm wrong, but now that I think about it, the fact that Spongy's sort of relaxing and has the sunglasses on, I think this is a thing in the BFDI mini that released a little bit ago, because I heard about Spongy being part of the BFDI mini that released a few days ago. BFDI mini Resort, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Spongy is a part of that. So I think that is pretty cool, like remaining as a sort of portion of that personality as well. So that's pretty nice to see that being continued into the future. So that's a pretty good note. And I also find the Flower and Gelatin collaboration very interesting. Of course, they are the final two, but the fact that they're so like bonded even in the memory, right, where they're together pitching the businesses, and even put together in like memory, the non-memory version of themselves, they're together at Taco's memory. They climb out together. I think it's an interesting dynamic that they haven't explored that much. Like Gelatin and Flower, they don't interact that often in BFB. Of course, BFB 30 happened, and that's like the main thing. But beyond that, it's not that big of a thing. So I think it's interesting how much they are collaborating with each other in this episode, um, as business partners. It's, I guess, just partners in general, just like friends that do stuff. And honestly, I don't really have many other notes on this episode. I haven't talked about the ending that much, the post-credit scene where Lollipop goes into Profili's head. However, I generally don't know what's going on there. Like, I don't know what's supposed to have happened. There's must be a thing I forgot, but I'm trying to remember, and I currently really don't, because Profile goes to escape with Teardrop and Balloony. Balloony enters the announcer land alien thing that we know about, then flies off into space, but I don't think this was a plot point that we heard about in another episode, unless it's like a thing in like BFB 30 or 29 where announcer came back. I cannot remember Balloony being a part of that genuinely. Like, I proper do not remember, and I think it is it is weird, and I'll be honest, because I'm giving my honest reaction and feedback as of having just watched it. I currently don't get it. And I'm sure if I did analysis later, maybe I would. But so far, that was my reaction and thoughts on I keep wanting to say BFB 18. No, on TPOT 18, BFB 31. That is my thoughts on it. And that's that. All right, and the third video and episode we're going to be watching and talking about for today is going to be BFDI TPOT 19, last one standing. That way we will have fully catched up on TPOT, and that is going to be it for today's video. Today's episode of Object Catchup is fully TPOT focused. We are taking it all focus. I currently haven't seen any Object Show releases today, so I think that is all for now. So I will now go watch it, and I will be back with you as soon as I have finished the episode. This looks like this might be an important one, a good one. Let's see. Hello, I have just come back from watching TPOT 19. Before any discussion, the classic spoiler warning for TPOT 19, last one standing. The episode's 3 months old, but of course beware if you haven't watched it, that I will be discussing it. I feel like at this point, if you're here in the video, you probably have. However, that is your fair warning. Now, TPOT 19, whoa! I don't know what I just saw. That was an absolutely insane episode. I don't even know where to begin. Let's begin with Cake and Steak, since that's the most normal thing that happens. So TV hosts Cake and Steak. We get to see the eliminations, which was Snowball on Team 2, and it was TV on which I guess I predicted 1 out of 2. I thought Lai was gonna leave. Lai didn't leave. Lai got bottom 2 instead. I guess that's fair. Looking back at it now, TV didn't do that much in terms of screen time because TV was controlling. So I think it makes sense, actually, now that I think about it, that TV would get eliminated rather than Lai. Now, 4 does realize that it's 1. So the earlier comment I made after watching TPOT 18 turned out to be no, it was glitched. 4 managed to fix it and figure out that it was 1. So 4 then goes and chases them. So for some reason, TV chooses the challenge. I think due to just being kind of upset, decides to make the challenge a last one standing. Everyone goes with it because apparently how it works in TPOT is whoever says a challenge is now the host of the challenge. Um, so we're doing last one standing. The main one we're talking about here is of course Pencil, but we'll get to that in a moment. Let's talk about some other characters first. Let's talk with the characters that get knocked out first. So what was the order? If I'm not mistaken, the first character that dies is Fanny, because Fanny died about twice immediately, thanks to Pencil. Then Marker dies almost immediately after to Lai. So what's going on in this episode is basically Pencil is gaining a lot of power from sources, and Lai is gaining a lot of powers from other sources. That's pretty much what's going on. In the middle, Black Hole is off surviving and stuff. And there's still the whole Force shenanigans going on. The Force, just the tennis ball cannot resist it. Not Force gets distracted, eliminates Bottle instead. Then tennis ball gets eaten because I guess tennis ball doesn't like the Force. So that's a little bit of a side plot. That side plot was okay. I mean, it feels like it's a little bit dragged out because we're 2 episodes since it was introduced and we're still just okay. Titans was getting chased every 3 seconds, but overall it's fine because again TPOT 18 kind of basically doesn't count. TPOT 19 is yes, this is something. Golfball creates a machinery for Donut, and I don't really understand it that well because Donut just immediately loses the machinery after getting rid of Pen. Like I don't know where it went. Because Donut was suited up with the machine, then proceeded to immediately unsuit up, and die immediately after. I guess it was maybe because of 1, right, where 1 brings them in, but I don't understand because they had the machine, but they shouldn't. Why did they take it off? That was a little bit of a plot point I didn't understand here. Then who else? Barbag got deleted. Okay, yeah. So 6 is off with the fellas. Purple Face actually manages to open the door, which I'm surprised. So they go into the foreland. 6 states that apparently 3 is here somewhere. That is in the forelands. Maybe it seems like 3 is in the forelands. Apparently, not sure, but yeah, 6 states that as a character. Donut it goes back to 1 and does the new tactic of just deleting characters. Again, that seems to be a tactic that 1 is employing. I must say, out of all things on Earth that I understand, one of the ones that I currently don't is 1, because 1 has so much power already. Like, okay, sure, maybe it was harvested a little bit more because of the yo-yo lights, but still, 1 can do anything. I mean, 1 like pretty much destroyed the universe, and it was like fine, but apparently it's not a thing or something. Um, but either way, 1 does end up getting the limitless all of the power possible because of Pencil. So let's talk about Pencil. Pencil, as I think I said at the end of Table 17, nah, the pep talk with Pen didn't work at all. Pencil is still off for Blood, wants to have the maximum amount of power, everything possible, and it works out well. The only person that Pencil is nice to is Grassy, and it was entirely just because that was like the first one, because Tiny Ball did the same thing and it didn't work, while Grassy was just like so unbelievably persistent with with begging and then being sad that Pencil was like, okay, I'll let you go. But yeah, Pencil ends up getting into the big battle with Lai. That looked very cool, and 4 as well. One of the things that I don't know is I don't know why Lai just decided that the recommended contestants are no. What was the point of just brutally murdering? It looked cool, but I don't know what the point of that was, because like Dude, I don't know. I don't know why Lai did that because they didn't have power and they were going for Pencil, not for her. So that was very weird. I guess maybe she misunderstood. That seems to be Lai's thing. So they're having the battle. Four comes in trying to do that. One somehow find bit of plot convenience, but one somehow finds the biggest brain play of okay, if I give the light to Pencil, Pencil will go up here and drop it on Light. No, that's plot convenience in my opinion, but I get it. It looks cool, so sure. And it's also interesting because Light gets killed by Light. Four ends up getting defeated by two because two has more power than four. I think this was. I mean, I guess it's established by the fact that everybody went there, right, into TPOT at the same time. But yeah, two has a bit more power than four, and it shows four is not quite capable of much. And Pen successfully defeats four. Fair enough. I mean, as far as many battles are concerned, Pencil beating four makes sense that Pencil would want to do that because the whole reason why she is on this arc is because four and the exit and all of that stuff. She misunderstands the prompt that four will say that there's another number and thinks talk about two. One leaves with four, so four goes somewhere. No idea where. It could be the one lands. Usually that's where she sends people to, but no, I'm not 100% sure. Pencil didn't actually manage to recover. And then one does that whole debate with give me your power and I will send you back to the past. Apparently that did happen. At least one did something. Pencil went somewhere. Currently don't know where. There's a lot of unknowns going on. Is that like what? There's a lot of unknowns going on. Like for example, two is gone. Two's power has. I mean, two's there, but two's power has been completely sucked out at this point because four was using it, and now he's just taking it for everywhere else. So two is pretty much done. Six doesn't really seem to have the power of anything. Like at least six hasn't done anything. Hasn't even flown. I don't know if six has any powers. Four is off. Four's last words were help X, which X is supposedly there somewhere. X is apparently there with the BFDI contestants. So those should be alive in theory. There's a few people alive, which you're gonna need to do a quick checkup on for a moment. But before that, let's just call the end of it. Yeah, one has limitless power, destroys the planet with the little fellas that we knew that two originally tried to host a competition show on. I think I don't remember what episode it was, but this was definitely a pull up when it happened. Price tag. I didn't mention price tag. Price tag was the least relevant character in this episode. I think it probably really didn't do that much. Dude, I do not know what to say. There are so many things. I feel like I've covered a good chunk of them. We'll talk Depact. Oh yeah, true. So Lai has this thing where she was apparently betrayed by Deathpact, and her and Black Hole have a discussion because Black Hole just happens to be there. Um, this misunderstanding from Lai is fair enough, I think. I haven't looked at BFB in 1 million years, but I think it's fair enough. I think Black Hole's pep talk to Lai ended up working because Lai did proceed to end up much more aggressive after that. You know, deciding okay, we did the thing and I did it. So I think it ended up working, unlike Pen's pep talk to Pencil, although Lai didn't get much time with it, to be honest. And yeah, winner got out. Price tag respawned winner on accident, but that's the first credit scene. We'll talk about that. Okay, so who's alive? Let's do that for a moment. Who is alive? So one has sent the Earth off flying to a different direction, and currently on Earth, supposedly we should have the BB cast, because the baby cast remained with X. X stayed back with them to help them stay safe or whatever. So X is there. Still, we know theoretically, Able and Fiery, which were on the lake, rowing for a few episodes, should still be there. We saw them for a quick scene, but they should be gone. They should still be there. They might just be stuck because I don't know what happened to the water. So they're there. We know that Black Hole is in the room. Black Hole is in one's decision room. One's entered there. Apparently, that means you're out, which is interesting, because that's usually not how that system has worked. But yeah, Black Hole got out when sent over by one into that chamber. We know that in the 4 exit lands, we still have the fellas that got taken away. Some of them, apparently, Barbag's gone. Gate is completely gone, and basketball should be gone over in the 2 lands, right? Of the contestant got eliminated by 2. They're all trying to open that door. I think it's interesting because the lands, they don't seem to be that affected by what's going on in the world. Like, the fact that 4 currently is powerless and isn't really, I might just be nowhere, is not actually that big of a thing. Like, in the 4 lines, you don't actually notice it. Apparently, at least the fellas that were there didn't notice it. So that, I think, is an interesting detail. We'll have to see. 6 mentions 3 on the off chance. We know that 3 is red. Firstly, because of the other videos, but also because of just how, like, clearly red it shows as hindsight. Like, immediately after Bell goes like, there's another one, the screen turns all red. So 3 is red. 3 is important. Apparently, as we saw on Twitter, 3 has a VA for next episode. Or, well, if it's next episode, I'm presuming it's next episode, but it does have a voice actor, which means that 3 would speak and 3 would show up. So that is probably what they're going to be doing. Now, 1 has limitless power. What will 1 do with it? I don't know. I think 1 has some unfinished business to take care of with 2 and 4 most likely. Because I don't know where 4 went. Black Hole as well needs to deal with that at some point in time. And yeah, also alive is Grassy. Of course, Grassy, the winner of the challenge. Last one standing, because Pencil put Grassy up in the rafters in the ventilation system, and Grassy just remained there for the entirety of Earth. Right there at the post credit, right there at the end, we didn't actually see Grassy stay alive necessarily. We saw that, I guess, when the world was turning, Grassy started to glitch out a lot. So I'm not sure if that has anything to do with anything. Like, is Grassy alive? Is Grassy dead? I don't really know, because if the world shifting would kill Grassy, it should also technically get everybody else in the process, or everybody else that I've just mentioned that is alive on Earth. So that's something that is interesting. There's a lot of details. But yeah, I think it says present, and Grassy is sad. Okay, one thing that I genuinely didn't understand, what is the vote to say? What is going on? We're eliminating 1 character per team. That was happening? Because we only see the Death Pact again. Player characters? Hold on. Why? Wait a minute. Vote in the poll to save a contestant on each team. Black Hole, Tree, Fanny, and Marker. Tadpole, Pen, Bottle, and Light. Why? Wait. So that's Death Pact yet again in Team 2. Oh, is that because there's 2? Oh, okay. Wait, wait, how many? No, okay, I get it. Because Pencil's safe on... What the hell is the team even called? On Claudier, because Pencil survived, I guess, or, was the last one standing. And then Grassy's safe on Team 2. Okay, that makes sense. It's a super weird idea, but I understand now. So then, and Depa yet again are up for Okay, who do I think is going to be eliminated? Quite frankly, Jesus Christ, this barely matters. At this point, it matters if these characters exist in the next episode more than if the characters are getting eliminated. But we did do a cake mistake this time. In Depa yet again, Black Hole probably not eliminated, has a good chunk of support, very important. It's difficult to say because Fanny, Mark, and Tree got out pretty early. Like, I mean, Tree got out a bit later, but didn't do that much. Fanny and Marker were, I think, last and second to last, or at least very close second to last. Marker was. Marker does entrust Lai with the token, which Lai does keep until dying. No idea where that. By the way, no idea where that token went. I'm not sure if it goes with Lai, and when Lai respawns, it goes back, or if the token's just there. I guess we'll have to see. Man, this is a decision. Fanny, Marker, or Tree. Which one would I predict? This is not my opinion on who I want eliminated. This is my prediction that I'm trying to make here before TPOT 20. Okay. I think my prediction is Fanny on that pie yet again. It's the first one out, and it isn't really a character that I think survives directly without the screen times. I think Fanny is the elimination setup here. It could be Marker Tree, but Marker's got fans, and Tree, I'm not really sure. Tree's got a bit of fans as well. Tree and Fanny would be in the same vein, but I think Tree had more screen time, so it would get more votes from a casual audience. You know, on the other team, I think it has to be Bottle. In this case, it's got to be Bottle, because Lai was extremely important to the episode. Pen is pretty important and has support. Tennis Ball also didn't really do much. Just another episode where Tennis Ball is just getting chased around. However, at least Tennis Ball was a bit more comic relief in this episode, you know, joking around. Because in an episode without much humor, Tennis Ball is one of the other characters that caused the humor to happen with the Force. Well, Bottle was getting chased around by the Force and didn't do that much. Other than that, just kind of slipped and died. It was a gag, I guess, but it wasn't much else. So I think Bottle, within my prediction, it should be the one getting eliminated. If we're looking at screen time and the vote to save system, my prediction will be Fanny and Bottle here. I cannot lie. A lot of characters V8 in this episode because a lot of the recommended contestants were here. So we got to see some more voice actors who appear in the shorts that, like the most recent one, which I didn't watch. Okay, I'll get to it. I'm in a different episode of this show. I promise. We'll get to all this. Watching new audio shows, old audio shows, and all of that jazz. And yeah, I mean, so far that's all the thoughts I can give. Oh no, I completely forgot. Winner gets respawned right there at the end, wirelessly, by price tag, and then proceeds to find Loser that was on the walk. I don't know how Loser made it. Right, frankly, the world spun around a few times, became void, came back, but somehow Loser went on this journey adventure and it worked, and made it to the destination. And they end up having the meet up with Winner. It's a nice scene. It's a cool scene because you get to see like the original scene from the story and how they help each other out and turn on the light. Now that light candle right there turns into the outro of the episode. Right, it fades out to the fire. Now this could be two things. There could be that that fire is important, like if something catches on fire, or maybe it could be a reference to Fiery, because Fiery's there, of course, with 8-Ball, and like, ooh, that is something. Also, they made a grassy plush for this episode because, of course, they did. The intro of the episode is them at New York announcing the 4 laid down plush for YouTube. Oh, I found it interesting how it starts at the beginning of the episode, but I guess it makes perfect sense. Like when I was watching the episode, I was like, why did they put this at the beginning? They always put this at the end. But then I watched the episode and be like, okay, yes, it would be very weird if the closing to this episode ended with YouTube's reveal. So putting it at the beginning before stuff has gone insane, that actually makes sense. Um, I'm. You know what I'm trying to find out? Did Leafy go to one's room? What? Because what is going on? Because one says to Donut that two people didn't accept the deal. So if then it was the Leaf, the annoying Leaf, and she was harder to deal with. That's such a one-off line. Am I forgetting something? Wait, I am. No. Wait a minute. I don't know what I'm. I feel like I've completely forgotten something here for a moment. Cause what in the world? Man, I don't know. Is that a scene? If it is, did Leafy go Leaf wait a minute. I am having a major memory lapse. What am I thinking? What is what? I am no, because Leafy stays in B. What is Leaf? What? I am not completely out of knowledge. At this point, I've just yapped completely. I don't know what I'm looking at. I don't know what I'm saying at this point, but that is interesting. Okay, I tried the wiki, which I know is not not the biggest deal. Not the most trustworthy source, but I mean, a lot of wikis don't have. I guess I don't know if the BFDI wiki is considered reliable by the fandom. Let me know, but we're looking into it. Okay, yeah, the relationship of one. It last us that one mentioned about Leafy and Sanacon supposedly denied it. So yeah, I didn't realize that because Leafy never, at least we didn't see Leafy go to sign a contract. So that is something unique. This one-off line that is brought in. So that's very interesting, especially for if we're doing the fiery callback because of course they're friends now. I I have no idea what's gonna be happening. So now I'm excited for TPOT 20. I'm happy to have caught up. And yeah, I mean, I guess we just gotta get to it. It's releasing in just a few days. All of you going to the theaters, shout out to you. And yeah, we'll get to see what's happening. It looks like it's a big one, because it's going to theaters. Usually they make the episodes where that are or on tour on theater. They make it the big ones, the ones that last longer. The ones. I mean, this one's in theaters, and it's gonna be pretty long. I think what was the length of the screening? I think it was a long one, but because they played the shorts for like 20 minutes before, so I think it's like a 1 hour episode. That's actually no, it's a 40-minute episode with 20 minutes of the shorts before. I think at the theater. I think that's what's going on. But that is the situation. And I think for now, that's my reactions, opinions, and immediate analysis on TPOT 19. There is so much to talk about that I haven't even. I mean, scratched the surface. That episode had so much to it, but I think for the meantime, I've pretty much said what I would have thought to say. Cause man, that is crazy. Okay, a few final additional notes that I want to find interesting. First of all, why does one not kill them? No, immediate question. Like, if you imagine Donut, like we saw how the challenge works. Like when somebody dies, that power gets transferred to like the nearest person. So, I mean, if one just wanted the donut power, we could have just transferred it over. Like a donut could have just been dead and one would have gotten the power, and then we wouldn't have to do this whole deal signing shenanigan. So that I found a little bit weird, especially because like. Not like Donut does anything. Donut dies the 3 seconds after leaving the room. So, I mean, I'm not exactly sure what's going on that. Secondly, a tree's purple, I guess, as just like they didn't. There's no reason actually for that. Like I was thinking about it, I was like, why is tree purple? I don't know. They turned tree purple in one scene to like I guess showcase the fucking the rift being weird, but like the fact that it is very random. because Tree doesn't really do that much other than that. And then Tree also proceeds to murder Godball. Misuses of power. I guess we've seen that the misusage of power definitely is a thing. Um, because you can tell Pencil isn't quite capable to perfectly use it because of the trying to regenerate line. It doesn't work. And we saw there that Tree tried to use some of the 2 power and managed to turn Godball into a snowball, but not like in the good way, not like Snowball the character. So that was not the greatest move from Tree there, but it is a thing. Also, a thing that I noticed is that Bottle's power goes to light, so and not to Black Hole, which I think was closer, or at least was pretty much near equidistant. So that's something. I wonder if Black Hole would be capable of receiving the 2 power, because that's weird, right? Like, how does that work? How does Black Hole have the 2 power? Like, how would that be a thing? Um, Not every character received a portion of the 2 power. I think. Like, did 4 give a portion of the 2 power to Black Hole? I don't know. I think about it. Road Body, where did Road Body go? Oh, that's a thing from the start of the episode. I already forgot it. Because 4 wanted to give some power to Road Body. Then Road Body proceeded to immediately leave. Oh, and end up with Bracelet. Where did you go? Oh, that's a scene I completely lost from my mind until right now. Okay, well, I get it means a scene that's important, so I guess add them to the alive pile because that's something that I mentioned earlier, and now I think that's everything that I currently have in mind. Actually, final thing. Uh, I think the intro might be subtly reanimated. It looked smoother than it did in TPOT 17, but I could be completely wrong. But it did seem like it was more there was like more frames to it, but I could be wrong. Um, this is what happens when you don't play the intro in Teapot 18. All right, you go crazy. You go crazy. I need to see my Teapot intro per episode, otherwise it's gonna go crazy. And there you have it. That was the first episode of Object Catchup, where we catched up on the Teapot episodes that I was missing. Um, that is all for today. Usually, I'd watch more videos, but the thing about Teapot episodes is they're just lengthy. The Teapot episodes, the II episodes. When we watch them, we're less likely to be able to watch many other things because it's just they're lengthy. I mean, 2 of these episodes were 40 minutes, almost 30 minutes, and you just end up having a lot to discuss. I mean, we are 1 hour and 22 minutes into into this discussion piece, ramble, thoughts, shenanigan. If you did listen, let me know any feedback, any opinion that you have on this series, on this concept that I have felt like trying out. Because I wanted to watch more show, I wanted to find a way to do it, and I was inspired by seeing the roundup of discussion pieces. I think that they're pretty cool, so I wanted to do my own little bit of review, thoughts, analysis after watching an episode to sort of differentiate, and get my own stuff. So yeah, we'll see next time what we'll watch. We definitely have to catch up on BFDIA. That's definitely the biggest one that we're missing. We have to watch the II Season 1 remaster. We have to watch a new episode that release. I'll be making sure to keep an eye. I will watch Object Shows if they release an episode in the next day, right? So like if a new episode releases an episode tomorrow or whatever, then that is all that I need to start watching it, because I want to discuss stuff as it releases, as it does stuff, and then do the past catch up when there is anything new. But we had to do the special Teapot episode to start because Teapot 20 is releasing soon, and we have to be ready for it because we need to talk about it in full swing when it releases, because it could possibly be a contender for biggest Object Show episode of all time, considering how many feeders it is, how important it seems to be to Teapot's arc and to the entire BFDI plotline. So we just had to talk about it. And yeah, give me opinions. If you have any recommendation for shows I could watch, you could also go off script and review those as well. Yeah, big shout outs to the Young Jellyfeet for the episodes that are there on the screen. And with that, yeah, I'm going to peace out, and we'll see you on the next episode of Object Catchup. Actually, I just thought of a catchphrase. Let's see if you guys like it. Now that we're caught up, we'll see you next time. Goodbye. You get it? Because you're caught up. Like we're playing. I started with catch up and then I ended with caught up. Yeah, I'm a genius of comedy. Okay, goodbye.